Hi, this is Pastor Scott Brewer with a thought for the day. For me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. Several years ago when I was in college, some of the best Christians I'd ever met to that point in my life were frequently in conversation with each other talking about the life verse that God had given them. And after I would hear one quote a passage from the Bible and another would quote a passage from the Bible, and these would be verses that were foundational in giving direction to their lives, I asked one of them, "How do you get a life verse?" And one said to me, "Well, you pray and you ask God to give you one." So I did. Now, I don't know if I thought that word was just going to materialize out of thin air, but the way it came to me was one day I was reading my Bible, and when I was in a particular passage, a verse leapt off of the page and into my heart, and I knew exactly this was the verse God was giving me for my life. It was from the Apostle Paul in a letter that he had written to believers in a city called Philippi. He had been thanking them for their love and their support in his missionary journeys. And he was actually imprisoned at the time, and so he's writing from a point of deprivation and pain and uncertainty about the future. Sounds a little bit like some of our day. He tells them in a very candid moment that if he had his preference, he would just as soon die and go on to heaven and be forever in the intimate presence of God. But he went on to say, because it is important for me to stay in this world for you and for God's purposes for you, I want to stay as long as he gives me breath. So, to me, to live is Christ, all the things that Christ is about, all the things that Christ purposes to do, and to die is gain. Whenever that happens, that's going to be a great day. Paul has been my teacher at that point about how to live that verse faithfully. Hey, we're in a day where my verse especially is relevant for me. You may have heard the news that the United States has now become the #1 nation with the confirmed cases of COVID-19, around 95,000 of us so far. And of course, the death toll is beginning to creep up as well. You may not yet know anyone who is sick or who has died. You might soon. We have all felt the effects of the economy. We're going to feel it more acutely. The point is, it is going to get worse before it gets better. What's that mean for you and for me? Well, it means that if we are Jesus followers, to live is Christ. What's Christ doing in you and around you? We have people that are beginning to have some very acute needs. We've already been mobilizing ourselves to address some of those needs. It is going to be more so. And yes, it will be prudent for you to discover what the social agencies around you or what your church has to offer and to provide. But here's the piece you don't want to miss. You are an answer to someone's prayer, some way, somehow. God has especially made you for a day such as this. He has given you personality and gifts and abilities and resources for such a day as this. Don't undermine the great, glorious thing God has and is doing with your life. Now, maybe you don't have a lot of need happening with your neighbors or your social circle at this point. It's probably coming. You've got time to prepare. And so let me encourage you, gather some extra supplies or food that you can be ready to share with someone in a point of need. Make yourself available to others. Connect with them by phone or by the internet, or go stand 6 feet away from them and engage in ways that console or encourage or contribute to God's grace and goodness pouring out to them in some kind of way. Friends, to live is Christ. To die is gain. May God continue his blessings in you and through you.